I still can't wrap my head around the fact that we're in 2022 now. You got 2 weeks of the 2021 NFL regular season left to go. That time just flies by, doesn't it? Well, if you're fans of certain teams, like mine, for example, you don't want to watch any more Bears football. If you're a Jags fan, you don't want to watch any more Duval football. You want to opt out of these last 2 games if you could and just hurry the fuck on to the offseason. But for other fan bases of other teams, you're starting to think about potentially making the playoffs. Whether or not that's a good thing for your organization or not. In some cases, you're thinking about, hey, could our team get the division title? First round bye. Potential Super Bowl contender. We'll find out soon enough. So anyways, here I am with my picks for Week 17 of this 2021 NFL season. You can check out my picks in the description box below. In terms of Week 16, it was okay. 12-4, picking winners straight up, only 8-8 against the spread, which season to date puts me at 156.84. Picking the winners straight up, and 131 and 109 in terms of picking the spread. So solid, but not spectacular. You'll notice one common theme here. There are several games with a lot of big point spreads involved, which can always be a little bit tricky, because you're still talking about the NFL and anything could happen. You wouldn't have thought that the Houston Texans were going to blow out the Chargers last week, but that's what fucking happened. So sometimes shit happens, you know what I mean? Looking at the slate of early Sunday games, you've got Atlanta traveling to Buffalo to take on the Bills. The Bills are big, massive 14.5-point favorites. And yeah, certainly I think Buffalo will win that game because they're trying to sit there and get themselves positioned to win that AFC East and get a home playoff game. But Atlanta's still technically kind of sort of in the playoff mix in the NFC. So I don't expect them to entirely, totally roll over and play dead, even though it's on the road. It could be in the cold, blah, blah, blah. The Bills have had some big impressive performances this year and throwing out some real stinkers and clunkers. And 14.5 points, that's 2+ touchdowns. That is a big-ass spread. So I like Buffalo to win, but I do like Atlanta to cover the 14.5. You got the New York Giants traveling to Chicago to take on the Bears. Oh boy, 3 hours of boring Bears football! To which some of you would say, well, that's an oxymoron, Jeff. If you say football and boring, of course you're saying Bears football. If you say Bears football, of course you know it's boring football. You got a point. But it's the Ryan Pace Bowl. I'm such a fucking idiot that I once paid big money to Mike Glennon and Andy Dalton to be starting quarterbacks for the Chicago Bears. Oh, look, that's probably who we're going to get facing off on Sunday. Holy hell. Give me the Bears minus 6.5. Another example of a game that you wish both teams could fucking opt out of. Big matchup, though, in the AFC with some serious ramifications. You've got the Chiefs traveling to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. This is a really big spot for the Bengals. If you win this game, for all intents and purposes, you cinched up the AFC North. For the Chiefs, this is a game that they need to kind of keep a hold on that top spot in the AFC. This is a big one here. It's a really big one. I like what I saw out of the Chiefs last week, especially when they were missing some guys. So I like Kansas City minus the 4 in this spot. Miami travels to Tennessee to take on the Titans. And you talk about a team that's kind of had a resurgence the second half of the year. That's the Miami Dolphins. And credit them right now. They're sitting in the 7th spot in the AFC playoff race. Now, have they benefited massively from playing a soft-ass, Charmin-ass schedule the past 2 months, taking on a lot of teams at key and opportune times? Yeah. They've gotten it done, but still, let's be honest here. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans, still looking at this as a situation where maybe they have a chance still to get the top overall seed in the AFC. They want to ensure that they can win that AFC South because that is not technically locked up just yet. So it's a big game for them. Give me Tennessee minus a 3.5. You got the Raiders traveling to Indianapolis to take on the Colts. The Raiders still have a little bit of life in the playoff race in the AFC. The Colts certainly have some life and, obviously still have a chance, outside chance at the AFC South that they can win out the last 2 and hope for a little help. It's a big spot for them. I like the Colts to win, but I do like the Raiders to cover the 7-point spread. You've got the Jags traveling to New England to take on the Patriots. The Patriots are 16.5-point favorites. I think you have to smash this all day long, even though that spread is that big. Yeah, although it's risky because you never know, like at this time of year, like even when I'm here today recording this at the New Year's Day morning, it's like 60 degrees here in Virginia, but weather can change just like that. So who knows what it could ultimately end up being on Sunday, but yeah, I'll take the Patriots minus 16.5. You got the Bucks traveling to Tampa, not to Tampa, of course they would travel to Tampa, they are home at Tampa. Traveling to New York to take on the Jets. Yeah, give me Tampa Bay minus 13 here. You got Philadelphia traveling to Washington to take on the Washington football team that's basically imploding now. Give me Philadelphia minus a 4.5. You've got another key matchup. You've got the Rams traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Will Lamar Jackson play? Will the Ravens find a way to win this game at home that they so badly, desperately need, both for terms of staying in the mix potentially in the AFC North, but also in terms of playoff seeding? Like, there's no guarantee the Ravens will even be able to get into a 6th or 7th spot in the AFC and even make the playoffs for a team that a few weeks ago was sitting at 8-3. That's not good. And there was a part of me that could see this coming a little bit because that schedule got a whole lot tougher towards the end of the year, and it is kind of manifested out that way. Meanwhile, for the Rams, now they sit atop the NFC West. There is still a bit of an outside chance that they could get that top seed in the AFC, but it is pretty remote. It would require them to win out, Cowboys to lose a game, the Packers to lose their last two. Probably likely not going to happen, but they want to make sure that they can keep enough distance between them and the Cardinals so that at least they can ensure that they win the NFC West. Give me the Rams minus the 5.5 here. I just don't have any confidence in the Ravens and what I've seen in recent weeks. Switching over to the late Sunday afternoon games, you got the Broncos traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Chargers. Have some real trepidation and hesitation with the Chargers here. They just got their shit kicked in by the Texans last week. And the last time they played the Broncos, that also did not go well. So I do not feel that confident in the Chargers in this spot, but feel like they might have a bit of a rebound here. I like them to win, but I do like the Broncos to cover the 7.5 spread. You've got the Texans traveling to San Francisco to take on the 49ers, which will hopefully be another start for Trey Lance. Big spot for Trey Lance in a key Week 17 game with a playoff spot potentially on the line for the 49ers. I like the 49ers to win, but I do like the Texans to cover the 12-point spread. A huge matchup. Obviously, America's game of the week because every fucking game the Cowboys play always is, but in a season like this, and when you get an opponent like this, a matchup like this, it is a key one. It is a game of the week. Got the Cardinals traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Cowboys still potentially having some designs on trying to get that top seed in the NFC. Like, they look like a legit team right now and a real threat. Meanwhile, the Cardinals got off to that really hot start, but have started to kind of crash back down to earth a little bit in the last few weeks, which is what I anticipated eventually happening. Cowboys are 6-point favorites here, and I feel like I've got to smash that at this point. Give me Cowboys minus the 6. Speaking of a game that's boring as hell on the surface, you got the Panthers and what should be one of Matt Rule's last 2 games in coaching in Carolina because he's a fucking clown. Traveling to New Orleans to take on the Saints. Could these be the last 2 games of Sean Payton in New Orleans? Am I just trying to manifest him coming to Chicago? Perhaps. If you don't like that, fuck you. Give me New Orleans to win, but maybe Carolina covers a 6.5-point spread. Who gives a shit, honestly? You've got the Lions traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks, and seeing this Seahawks team last week, their defense is bad, and Russell Wilson looks bad right now, really. I'm just going to pick the Lions plus the 7.5 because why not? Because there was nothing impressive about that Seahawks team last week. They suck. The Sunday night matchup got a whole lot less interesting because Kirk Cousins got the inevitable positive COVID test, and if you're saying I'm making a statement against him because he's unvaccinated, the reality is, like I'd say for most of these guys at this point, vaccinated or not, probably going to test positive for COVID at some point. It's just the fucking way it's working right now. It is. Just happens to be a terrible timing for the Vikings, but maybe a good time if you're a Vikings fan because you want to see them lose, even though you hate the Packers with a passion because you want Mike Zimmer gone at the end of the year, and maybe a big loss here could help in that way. Give me the Packers minus the 13, absolutely. And then the Monday night matchup, what could be Big Ben's swan song at Heinz Field, his last home game in a Steelers uniform. They host the Cleveland Browns. I like the Steelers to win this game. I really do. Some sentimentality. They're a bit of the underdogs. Maybe they still feel like they have the slightest of outside chances at the playoffs. Meanwhile, trying to send off Ben with one more win at home. Like, I could see a team kind of rallying and responding to that this week. Meanwhile, the Browns stink with Baker midfield. So I'll take the Steelers plus the 3.5 to win. So those are my picks for this week. I really didn't invest a lot of time in them because I really don't care. We'll see what happens. Out.